this is Kyle from WeTechCareOfYou, and today I'm going to do the final video for the Invoice Generator series. And for today's video, we're going to do the Power App. So we've already done the SharePoint list for the data source. We've already done the Power Automate automation. So today we'll build the actual app. We'll do a run through and hopefully it all works first time would be nice. So let's get straight into it. So as you can see, I've come to PowerApps. I'm going to create a new blank canvas app. So I'm going to do a blank canvas app here, and I'm going to call this Invoice Generator. That. Okay, so what we want to do first is we want to click Insert, and then we want to add a form, and we want to add an edit form. Now I'm just going to move that to the center. And then for our data source, we want to connect to those SharePoint lists that we created in the first video. So if you click on the data source, come down, click connectors, click on SharePoint, click your connection, and then we want to find that site that you created those lists in. So I've got my form site, and then I'm going to connect to Invoice System Demo, and then click Connect. Okay, perfect. So now I'm just going to resize this. I'm just going to format this around a bit. So first things first, I'm going to set the columns to 2. I found this very important with a lot of Power App development is that you should always set your columns first. I've seen a lot of times in the past. I made this mistake myself many a time. I've seen other developers do it where the columns could be on 6 or 12. Then they start trying to have, visually just 2 columns, and then once the database refreshes, all the cards snap and refresh all out of order, and it can be a big pain if you've got large forms show and hide in a lot of fields. So first things first, set that column to 2. Now what I am going to do here is we are going to add our title. So I'm just going to go back to edit fields here, and I'm going to click this little ellipsis up here, and I'm going to add a custom card. So there is our custom card. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come to the Y property of this custom card. I'm going to set that to 0. And then you'll see these will jig up. So I'm just going to reformat these and set these to 1. Set that build to 1 as well, just for now. And then I'm just going to select this width to width fit. So there you can see there's our heading there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the height of this to 50. Just going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a label. So insert label. I'm just going to put that text as Invoice Generator. I'm going to set the font of that to Lato. And then I'm going to set the font to 20. And there's our font. So next I'm going to insert a media image. And I am going to upload my logo. So I suppose just, for this, if you want to grab your logo, put mine there. And then I'm going to bring that width out to be about 50% of the form. In fact, I just want to set the width of this form to be 800. It's already 800. Okay, perfect. So there we've got our first. Just going to bring the label down. Okay, so there we've got our header. So next what we want to do is we want to have our date, and then we want to have an invoice number. So I'm just going to set the date. I'm going to set this position to 0. and I'm going to set the position of this one to 400, and that'll just swap them over, as you can see. And then I'm just going to set this font to be Lato 13. And then what we are going to do next is if we set the default date. So if we just unlock this card, set the default date on this date to be today, open and close parentheses, and there you'll see it'll set today's date. Now what you can actually do as well is if we come to format, change it from short date, and I'm just going to do it as DDMMYYYY, and then that's just going to change the format of that date there. Finally, we're going to go to the display mode of this date. Display mode dot disabled, because that's always just going to capture today's date, and that's that. So next we want to put the title here, so I'm just going to move this bill to down. In fact, it might be better if I just do all of them at the same time. So I'm going to put the bill to as 2, title as 1, I'll put the sale amount can move down. Right, I'm just going to reorder all these at the correct, so that sale amount can go to 4, and we can set the full width for that. GST can go to 5, set the full width for that, and then the balance due can go to 6, set the full width for that. And then we've got our bill to, and then we've got our vendor details as well, which we need to add hard coded. And then we've got our attachments. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this attachments one because we don't need the attachments field. So I'm just going to click on form, click edit fields, and then we just want to remove the attachments field. Perfect. Okay. So it's shaping up already. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the vendor details. Going to add the vendor details, which is again a custom card. So we come back to edit fields, click the ellipsis here, and then click add custom card. I shall add this card, and then I am going to set this to 2. Now I'm going to set the height of this, close that, to 150. Set the height of this to 150 as well. And there we can see it shaping up a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a label into here. Okay, so I'm just going to make the height of this to be 112. Set the Y to be 34. Now I've obviously already pre-positioned all of this in the other app. This is so it all just fits in the one screen. So, you know, I suppose if you want to follow these, you can. If not, you don't have to. And I'm just going to go to the text, and I'm just going to set the text for the vendor details. change that font to Lato, make the font to 12. And then this bill 2, we'll make the height. It's 112 as well. I'll make the Y 34. Okay. So I'm just going to make the height of this to be 34, which it is. And then we're just going to set the Y value as 0. Set the Y value as 0 and the X value as 30. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this and just paste it into that. So I just selected bill 2, held Control C, and then Control V to paste it into here. And then we just want to set the text of this to be vendor details, inverted commas. Set the height of that to be 34. And set the Y of that to be 0. Set the X of that to be 30. Just make sure that I just set the 30 as well. Okay, perfect. It's coming together nicely. So first what we need to do as well is change this title field. So we want to change this text. So we want to unlock this card and we want to change all of this to say invoice number. Oh, invoice number, and then we can just set the visibility of this star to be false because we don't need that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this now. So if you just click File, Save As, I'm just going to save this as Invoice Generator. What I'm going to do as well is I'm going to call this Production Invoice Generator. Okay, so let's just continue with some more. So next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the borders from around all of these columns. So let's just go to click what we need, click on the property, border thickness, set all these to 0. So again, what I've found, like I've found a lot of time with a lot of different developers I've worked with, different Power Apps I've seen, or just in this type of space, there's very little, or I've not worked at many developers who put much effort into design. I'm a developer myself, so again, the design for my apps when I started out were pretty basic and bad, and I would always just use out of the box. I found sometimes if you just even make some slight changes to the design, it just makes a world of difference. So one of the things that I like to do is just take the thickness away from these borders. Sometimes I like to just set the border thickness to 1. In this case, I'm just setting it to complete 0 on all of these. So okay, so just set this border thickness to 1 to 0. Okay, that's good. So we can't see any of them now. We'll change the format of that shortly. So what next? So next we want to insert our button. You can just add that to the bottom. back. What I'll do is change the height of the form. The height of this should be 768. That's fine. And the button. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put the button in the balance due property there, unlock and add. So we put the button in there. Whilst we're on this balance due property, we'll set the height of this to 35. I do apologise, it's jumping about a bit. I mean, I'm just sort of noticing things and just building this as I go along, so please bear with me. So now we're just going to set those three. We might as well set the three text fields relating to that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've highlighted that checkbox. So even, if you can't find it because we've removed the boards, if you just come along the left, click the data card value and balance due. And I'm just going to set the background of that to be a light gray. And then I'm going to set the width of it to be 350. And then set the X property to be 150. And then we should be able to just move that up in its position the way it is. Set the Y value to 1. Set the Y value of the button to 2. And I'm going to set this balance due font size. Format that X to 30, Y to 1, X to 30, and Y to 1. Perfect. Okay, actually, I just want to make that smaller so it doesn't conflict with our button. When people try to click on the button, we don't want them selecting the text because then it won't work. Okay, so we're doing good. We're doing good. I hope you're keeping up. I'm just going to save these changes again. I hope that's okay. Just publish that. Okay, so next thing, I guess what we can do is we can make all of the backgrounds on the fields to be that light gray. So I'm just going to come to this GST one, make that light gray. In fact, I might as well. Make this width 350. Put that Y value to 1. Okay, I'm just going to make this shorter. That's the rest. X is 30, Y is 1. That's just great. And then finally, the sale amount. So I'm just going to do this one. Set the background to grey. Width was 350. Okay, looking good. So I'm just going to set the background color of these as well to our grey color. Make sure everything's the same. Why is 10? Set that to 5. Okay, setting those wires to 40, right. So what I'm going to do is I'll still just finish a bit of the design, and then we can start going into the little bits of functionality where we do the invoice number and the rest of that. So next, what we want to do is want to add another data card. So this is going to be for our tasks section. So again, click the form, click edit field, click the ellipsis, and add custom card. Now what we want to do with this is, let's just see what that saying amount Y was. So we want to put that to 2. We want to full width it, and then this is where we're going to add our tasks. So we're going to have quite some functionality for this. So we want to set the height of this to be 303. We don't. 280 for now. And then what we want to do is, in this data card, we want to insert a gallery. So that's the first thing. So insert gallery, and then you could just do a blank vertical. Now with the gallery, I found it is quite temperamental when you try to add it into a thing. What you need to do is, you'll see it's added it outside of the data card. If you just now select on that, hold Control and click X to cut that gallery, come back to the data card, and then now click Control V, and then you'll see that that pastes the gallery within that data card. So that's just a little, I don't know what's a little bug with it, but that's how you put a gallery into a data card. So for this data source, we want to add another connector. We want to add another SharePoint connector. And then click your connection, go back to your Forms SharePoint site, and then add the invoice system demo tasks. Connect to that. And then we just want to resize this gallery to be 156. Okay. We can set the width of that to be 741. And then we'll set the X and Y properties. X is 30, Y is 139. So X is 30. Y is 139. Okay, boom. Right, now what we need to do next. Okay, so next, click the data card, click insert, and we want to add a label. So for this label, we want to do the width 799, We want to do the Y value as 9 and the X value as 0. Make sure that width is 799. No, 799. Okay, and then what we want to do is we just want to change that text to say complete the fields below. Select out row to attach the row to the invoice. I'm just going to center that. Keep it as 13 size. Change the font to Lato. And that's that done. Now, next what we want to do is we want to add the button. So we're still in this data card. We want to insert a button. And then there's going to be quite some formatting that we want to do on this. So again, as I said, what we'll do is we'll still just work on the design for all this, and then I'll sort of go through and add all the functionality in sort of towards the end of the video. So we got our button. So we want to change the text of this to be add row. And then what we want to do for this one is we want to change the color of that. So we want to change the color of this button to be transparent, but then we also want to change the font to be black. Font color there to be black. Okay. And then for this as well, we want to do border. The border thickness. This should be 1. And then we want to put our border color. So if you just go to the border color, and then if you just change it to RGBA, open bracket 0, 18, 107, 1, and that'll just put a nice little cheeky border around that. And as well, I just want to make sure that text is not on just semi-bold. I'll just change that text to normal. And we'll change the font to Lato. So again, like we want this button to be separate, to be different to the main submit button. Again, this is just a little design change, which I think makes the form look so much better. And then finally, we just want to set the width of this button as well to be 97. Okay. We might as well set the X 674 and the Y value to be 95. There. Okay, good stuff. So there's our row button. Now what we want to insert next is a separator line. So if we just go to icons at the top, so I'm just going to insert a separator. So if we just insert, where is it? Where is it? Ugh. Horizontal line. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that up here, fully extend that. Now this is a bit awkward, but what you can do is if you just put the height of that to 1, and then if you set the border thickness also to 1, then there you can see. Right, so there we've got our separator. Okay, good stuff. So next what we want to do is we want to add our inputs. So if you just put come to insert, go to text, and then we want to put text input. I guess we want to add 3 of them. And we want to line them up with this button. So first one's going to be text description. What we'll call description input. And we want to set the width of this to be 359. And we want to set the X value of this to be 31. And next, we want to call the next one units description. Units input, sorry. Change the width of this to be 121, and we want to change the X value of that to be 401. Okay, and then this final one will be total amount input. So rename that total amount input. We'll put the width of that to be 128. And then we're going to put the X value of that to be 534. And that should come in nicely. Now what I'm going to do to these 3 as well is we just want to come to the default text for that. Just delete the default text. We want to change the border thickness to be 0, and then we want to change the background to be our grey. I'm just going to do that to the other 2 as well. So just come up to default, remove the text input, border thickness to none. Okay, looking good. So now what we want to do is we just want to add 3 labels. In fact, I'll just copy and paste this bill one. So Control C, come into here, Control V, Control V, Control V. And we want to change that to amount. Position that above that, center. We want to call the next one units. I'll just drag this to here. And then we want to call this one description. Okay, looking good, looking good. So next what we want to do is we want to, I don't know why this format is not working nicely. I'll just change. I'm just going to highlight all of these on the ads row and just move them up by 1. So we got some space for our gallery. So then what we want to do is come to our gallery. And now we need to do some formatting in the gallery itself. So we've got quite a few things to add to this. So first things first, we want to add our bin. So if you click on gallery and then you click at the top here, it then highlights the rows for that gallery. And what we want to do is we want to 156. We want to set that to be 156. Yep, so that's fine. So then first things first, we want to click insert an icon and we want to do a bin. So the trash, move that over to here, make that a lot smaller, change the color of that to red. So then that's our bin. And then next we want to add a separator. So what you can do actually is if you just come up to this icon, to that separator we added before, where is it? This icon 3, and click Control C, and then in the gallery, click Control V. The separator there, and then what we want to do is we want to insert some labels. Now I'm just going to insert this first one. Now in the text of this first label, what I'm going to do is actually what we need to do first is if we go to the gallery and if we go to items, so this is the invoice system demo task. So what we want to do, sorry, I know I did say to add this before, but we want to actually change this. We want to just type in invoice rows collection. Now that will error at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll just do the code for the add row, because what we're doing here is we're creating a collection, and that is going, each row on the thing is going to be a collection. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy and paste a load of code into this. So if you click on the add row button, go to OnSelect. I'm just going to paste in a load of code in here. Now what I'll do is I'll just quickly run through what this code does. And then, as I said, I'll put all these pieces of code on the blog post, so you can just come and take. So if you go to the description in the video, the link, and this will give you this code. So what we're doing here basically is when they click add row, we are going to collect the data, put it into a collection called InvoiceRowsCollection, and I'm going to take. We're going to create 3 fields in that collection: the description, the units, and the total amount. And we're going to take whatever value is in those 3 boxes at that time. So that's going to add them to the collection. Then we have got this functionality here. So as you can see up until here, this functionality is relating to calculating all of those costs. So because unfortunately with this functionality, the way we add and remove that decimal place, the comma separator, the dollar sign, we need to sort of do these little functions here to sort of remove all that formatting so we can calculate the total cost, because when all that formatting is on it, it's not recognized as a value. So these first 2 rows just basically substitute out all of those extra formatting to give us a number. Then it creates the variables with that total value. So as you can see, the total is just taking whatever's added and it adds it to the total. It calculates the GST. Then after it does them, it resets these 3 fields that we've just entered the text into, and then it sets the format number variable back to none. Now, again, at the moment, it'll probably show errors because we've not got these formatted yet. I might just do them next just to get all of these errors ridden. But for now, you can take this code, put it into the add row functionality, and that should remove the error on the gallery, which it has, because now you can see the invoice rows collection is working. Now, as you can see, we should have an error on this label here. What we want to change this to is we want to keep it as this item, but we want to put this as the ColTotalAmount. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. So Control C, Control V, put another one here, and then Control V again, and then we've got our description. So I'm just going to make that bigger. So this one will be this item dot ColDescription, and this next one will be this item dot units. Units. So again, what's happening here is, they put the value in here, they click add row, that does all the calculation, adds to the calculations, and then it adds it to that row. So this will show the units below that. Then in the gallery, the next row will come and it'll just keep building up that gallery as we go. So make that shorter to match that. Okay, I'm just going to save it as well. Just make sure that you save these. Okay, so I'm just going to do some different formatting to this. So I just want to change the height of this one to be 112, so it matches that to the left of it, because I can see it overlapping. And then also we want to make the line height okay, so I want to make the line height for that 0.8, and I just want to add another space in between each of these. So just come back to the text. Fill it up, and then again on the same thing here, we want to make the line height as 1.5. So the reason that we're doing this is just because the two different controls, so they just have different line heights, but when you enter the address, it should look similar to that one. Okay, so that's that done. So what's next? So I guess what we want to do now is we want to fix the formatting on, okay, one other thing, sorry, is we want to add a border to, so we just go to our gallery and we just want a border thickness of 1 on that. Just make that a little bit smaller so it fits in. Okay. Now, next what we want to do, I'm just going to make this Y2 as well. Just going to change that Y property to 137, just to 136, 134, just to give it a little space in between. And as well on that gallery, I'm just going to change the border color to be the grey as well, or maybe a bit better, a bit of a darker grey. Okay, good stuff. Right, so next we want to add the formatting to these. So what we are going to do is we're going to make the display mode for all of these to be disabled. So we're going to unlock it. Display mode dot disabled. I'm going to Control A to highlight all of them. And I'm just going to do it to all three. Display mode. Lock. Okay, so they're all locked, so no one can actually add them. And then what we want to do is we want to add some code to the default of them. So we want them to automatically calculate. So if I now just go to the default property, and again, I'm just gonna paste the code in for this. Again, as I say, I'm just gonna put it. You can take this code off the link in the description, and I'll just tell you what's going on here. So we're using a text function. We're getting the value of this variable that we set every time we add the row, and then this format and just re-adds the decimal place, the command, thousand separator, and the dollar sign. So that's that one for that. So that's obviously the variable, total variable. Now for this next one, I'm gonna paste this one. So this is the variable GST again with that format applied, and then we'll have our final variable. Yeah, so then that is basically just adding the two of them together. So we're getting our variable total value and our variable GST, and it's just adding them together. Okay. Now, next, what I want to do is I want to just come back up to this amount. Again, I do apologize, it's jumping just all over the place. There is just so many different things to this. So I'm just going to come back to this amount text input here, and I'm going to come to the on change value, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in this code again. This code will be in the link in the description. But basically, what this is doing is it's setting a variable called formatted number. It's taking that value and it's appending that thousand separating the decimal. So, when the user types in 600, when they click off that or when they click add row, that'll add all of that formatting, and that's just that piece of code for that. Now we're going to come up to we're going to come up to this here, and I'm just going to go to, so we're just setting the invoice number. I'm just going to go to the default of this, and just for the default of this, we've just got a variable name called InvoiceNum. So again, that'll error when we do this now. Now what we'll do is we'll go to the on start of the application. So we'll go to the on start of the application. So click the app, come to the property on start, and then what we're going to do is we're going to paste this code in. So we're going to set that invoice number. So in this piece of text here, you can add whatever you like. So I suppose this is relating to the app you want. You could have your company name or whatever. This is just what's going to appear before the number on the invoice. So I just kept it as inv. And then what it does is it's got an ampersand, and then we've got the last invoice demo ID, and then we plus one to it. So as I said, this always just automatically increments. So it looks up at that SharePoint list of all the invoices. It gets the last one of it. So it'll get the latest one, the highest ID, which again could be like 5. And it'll just take that fifth, add one to it, and then that'll make our invoice number 6. So that's how we keep that unique incremental. And we are nearly there. So I just want to now come to the form. I'm just going to add the border thickness to be 1 on the form. And then what I'm going to do is, oh no, so something's happened there, I think. Right, I don't know what's happened here, but I'll just quickly fix it. I assume yours might have hit the same as well. So I think that was because it was a refresh to the database. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the width of this to be 800 or 700. And date, invoice number. Why has all of this gone different? My property, that should be 1. So just change that date to be 1. Seems that everything has jumped up and changed. We can just quickly fix this. I'll just change that invoice to be 1. Bill 2, the Y value can go back to 2. Right, okay. That should fix all of that. We've got the sale amount. I'm just going to change the width of this to be 800. So if you see as well, even though we did have the width fit, sometimes, if the width of it is still only half the size, it will just bunch them up onto the same row. So I hope you've been able to just fix that little issue there. And as we can see, we've got our scroller that's come back in. So I just want to bunch this up a little bit more. Just change the height of this to 30. If you click on this bottom, this is the error that's come up. I'm just going to change, I'm going to move this up. And that can just go there. I mean, that error is not going to appear because we've not got required on this, but just moving that up has now made the scroller disappear. So I do apologize for that. That's just a PowerApps glitch. I hope you've been able to fix that. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to insert a rectangle. Icons. Looking for rectangle. There we go. And then I am going to set the background color of this rectangle to be a dark gray. And then I'm going to just make this fill the whole screen. Now on the settings of this rectangle, just come to the ellipsis and then click reorder and then center back. That should then bring our form in front. Now what you'll see here is because the form is transparent, everything looks a bit different. So what I'm going to do, I mean, this is a bit of a weird way of doing it. If you do know a different way how to do this, please let me know. But what I'm going to do here, I know it's not the best practice, but I'm just going to put another rectangle inside of each of these. And I'm just going to put the color of that as white. And then I'm going to send that to back. And then that is our rectangle for that. So now I'm just going to copy and paste that, and I'm going to put it through all of them. Again, I know this isn't the best method of doing it, but hey ho, it still works. Send it back. I hope you don't have too many issues doing this. You have to send it back. In fact, because that keeps coming as a width, I'm just going to copy this one again. So send that to back. And now I'm just going to Control C so I can take that one. Control V. Okay, so we are done by the looks of it. I just want to resize some of this because okay. So I've just had to resize that because I just really don't like the Okay, so just set that to 50 and 50. So it is possible to get it where it's just dead on. Just put the Y value of that to be 0, and then just remake that height to be 50. Okay, so what I'm going to do here as well, I'm just going to change this button text to be submit. I'm going to bring it in so it's on a line. All of that. And there we go. So I think that could actually be it. Let's do a run through. I'm just going to save it. And let's try it out. Let's publish this as well. So let me try it out. Oh, that's not good. Let me just set that default form to be new. So we come back up here, go to the default form, click new. Now when I click the play button, that should be ready to go. Okay, so the date and the invoice number have swapped, and that is not disabled. So if you come to the invoice number, come to display mode, and we want to change that to disabled. I'm just going to change the position of that to be 500. There it goes, so swap them back. The vendor details swapped as well, so I'm just going to change the position of that again to be 500. Do apologize, that's that recent bug. Okay, so now that should be it. So again, I've just, as we've built this, realized the bug. So because there's nothing in those lists, the invoice number's not coming up. If I just run the app on start, see if that works. Okay, so it's just come up as invoice 1, which is actually all right, yeah. So I'm just going to make a space of this, put a hyphen. Now if I just run that app on start again, there we go. So we've got our invoice 1. Now I'm just going to save and publish it again. And let's do a run through. So bill 2, straight away I notice another issue. With this text field, we want to change this to multi-line. So then the text comes at the top. So bill 2, customer 1, address 1, postcode 1. Leave that as is. If you want to make that a little bigger, just so that fits in. So I'm just going to change the Y values on this to be 32, just so I can accommodate for that height size to fix that issue. I hope you're following us on this. Change that to 114. Change that height to be 114. Okay, that's looking good. So now if I just put... Okay, so we've got our 4 lines there. City. Now next we're going to do our description. So SharePoint development, units 6, amount 500. So if I click off that, that's not reformatted correctly, so I need to change that. Okay, what we need to do is we just need to change the default of this to be formatted number. So let me change that. So that's the variable that we want, and then we just want the default of this to be formatted number. Okay, so now you can see the 500 come in. If we click add row, there it adds correctly. If we just now come into this, I want to just center align this. In fact, we want to just center align all of this to make it look better. Okay, and we forgot to do our bin as well. So let me just do the bin. So in the bin, I'm going to just paste this block of code, which, as I said, will be in the description. But again, what this just does is it just clears everything, and it just removes. So what it does is it removes the value that was on it from those total costs, and then it just removes this item from that collection, so it's no longer in the collection. So now it looks like our total amounts are coming in correctly, 600, 500, 100. If I just delete that, that's set them back to 0, so that's working great. So now I'm just going to add a couple of couple of rows, and I am going to, so we finally need to do our submit button as well. So the submit button is relatively easy, and that is just submit form. Okay, so now we've got everything generated. Now if I just click submit form, click submit. Okay, another thing. Okay, another thing. So what we want to do, right, is this is just the best practice, is that on this button, it clicks submit form. What we want to do is we want to change something in the on success function when the form is successfully submitted. So what we want to do is, again, I mean, I'm going to paste a load of code. I'll just explain what it does. So what it does is it takes all of those rows from that collection and it patches it to that invoice system demo task list that we had. And then it takes those units that's putting those values into that SharePoint list. Then it tells the user that it was successful. It sets the form to be a new form, so it removes everything. It clears that collection, sets all the values back to 0, and then it resets the that invoice number. So I'm just gonna, now that we've added that block of code to the on success, I am just going to run the on start again. In fact, what I am going to have to do is, if you just save it, and we are just going to have to refresh our screen. I do apologize for this. Refresh the screen. That should open our app again. Click override because it's still got that session open, but it's all saved, so it should be okay. Okay, so let me just quickly fill this out again. So customer 1, address 1, city 1, postcode 1. That's looking good. SharePoint dev, 5 units, $600. I mean, I wish I could get $600 for 5 hours work. Okay, so that's all looking good. So let me submit that again. Successfully submitted. Everything's cleared. We can see our invoice has gone to the next thing. Now let me just wait for that email to come through, and fingers crossed we will have fingers crossed comes through successfully. Okay, so hello, the email's sent correctly. It looks like it has attached something. Let's open this. Okay, so it hasn't pulled in those values correctly. Now let me just figure out why that's happened. Okay, ignore me. So this was the previous email before we'd added that on success. So here's the next email. So let me just pull that up, and with the text that we added in that on success method should fix that issue that I've just explained. So here's the email. Let me just open this. Perfect. And there you can see, so it's pulled in those records successfully. There's the units. That's all worked successfully. The total amount there. Our invoice is generated. And there you go. All done. Thank you so much. I hope this has helped. I'm pretty pleased with how that's gone. It took a lot longer than I expected, but we got there in the end. If there's any issues with anything, just put it in the comments. I'll definitely reply to all the comments. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Anything around this, I just want to get more popularity around this. I think this could be a good system. I think this can help quite a lot of people, especially for like small businesses or people who don't want to pay the costs for like accounting systems and things like that. You can literally just whip this up and you can be away with it. So yeah, please subscribe to the channel and take care. Thank you.